Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yamunatira Vanachari Yamunatira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yamunatira Vanachari Yamunatira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gaura Nitaya Gaura Nitai, Gora Nitai, Jaya Gora Nitai. Jaya Gora, Jaya Radha Vallabha Radha Vallabha Radhe. Jaya Jagannatha, Jaya Jagannatha, Jaya Baladeva, Jaya Subhadra. Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki, Sri Sri Gauranitai ki, Sri Sri Jagannath Baladev Subhadra ki, Sri Sri Radha Vallabha Bhagavan ki, Giriraj Maharaj ki, Śrīmad Grantaraj Śrīmad Bhāgavatam ki, Go Premanandi, oh glorious assembled devotees, oh glorious assembled devotees, oh glorious assembled devotees, oh glorious Shishi Guru and Gauranga. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. We are reading from the Śrīmad Bhāgavatam, Canto 5, Chapter 14, The Forest of Enjoyment. Krishna. We're reading text number 18. Krachit. Oh, okay. Sometimes Kriya Ashram in household life, Karma Chodana of the rules of fruitive activity, Ati Bharagirim, the big hill. You know Giriraj? What does Giriraj mean? Who knows what Giriraj means? Do you know? The one who lifted Govardhan Hill. He's the Raja of Govardhan, Govardhan Dhari, the lifter of Govardhan Hill. Giri means hill, mountain. And here today, this is very important, this word. Ati Bharagiri. Girim. A very big hill. But Krishna can lift any hill. He can lift big hill, small hill, every hill. Ati Bharagirim. Again, Ati Bharagirim. Everyone together. Ati Bharagirim. Means, what does it mean? The big hill. Okay? Don't forget. Urudukshmanaha. Desiring to ascend. Ascend is the opposite of descend. Ascend. What does ascend mean? To go. Go up. Good way. To go up. He wants to go up the Ati Bharagirim. Go up the big hill. Who wants to go up a big hill? Everybody wants to go up a big hill. I want to go up a big hill. Loka. Material. Vyasana. To pursuits. Kashita mananaha. Sorry. Manaha. Again. Whose mind is attracted. Kantaka sakara kshetram. A field covered with thorns and sharp pebbles. Pravishan. Entering. Either. Like. Sidati. He laments. He's upset. It means he's upset. To lament. Srila Prabhupada's translation. In household life, which word on the board means household life? Grihastha. We used to say in the old days, grihastak. Stuck in the grihastha. Stuck in the griha. Grihastak. Grihastha. In household life, one is ordered to execute many yagyas and fruitive activities, especially the vivaha yagya, the marriage ceremony for the sons and the daughters, and the sacred thread ceremony, the upavitra. These are the duties of a grihastha, and they are very extensive and troublesome to execute. They are compared to a big hill. What does a big hill mean in Sanskrit? A big hill. Anybody? Ati Baragirim. Ati. Ati Sundaram means? Sundaram means? Beautiful. Ati Sundaram? Very beautiful. Ati Baragirim? Very big mountain. Not Baragirim. Ati Baragirim. They are compared to a big hill over which one must cross when one is attached to material activities. There are many important qualifying words in this translation, which we'll go over again. But this one is one of the important ones. When one is attached to material activities, a person desiring to cross over these ritualistic ceremonies, another one, what type of ceremonies? Ritualistic ceremonies. Certainly feels pains like the piercing of thorns and pebbles endured by one attempting to climb a hill. What kind of hill? A very big hill. Ati Baragirim. Thus, the conditioned soul suffers unlimitedly. So, for Hare Krishna, the sake of the Brahmacharis who just arrived, somebody can tell them what the word Ati Baragirim means? One of the children? Yes? A very big mountain, Ati Baragirim. All right? This is our mantra for today. Ati Baragirim, Ati Baragirim. We do 16 rounds of Ati Baragirim, Ati Baragirim, Ati Baragirim. A very big mountain. Not a Baragirim, Ati Baragirim. Okay, very big mountain. Okay. The Brahmacharyas are smiling because I know they don't have to climb the mountain. Right? They got all the grihastas here. Not another one. Another grihasta slamming glass. We're going to crawl out of this classroom today, out of the temple room. Whew. Let's get prasadam, get home. Heavy, huh? Śrīmad Bhāgavatam. It said that in the Bhagavatam, in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, there's a chapter where it's called the explanation of the Atmarama verse in the Madhya Lila. And Lord Chaitanya is speaking on this, the like esoteric meaning of these verses, many, many different angles of vision. And then at the end, Sanatana Goswami says to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, "You're God. You must be the supreme Godhead. How can you speak like this? You're not a devotee. I know now who you are. You're Krishna himself." And he was glorifying Mahaprabhu. And Lord Chaitanya doesn't like to be called God. He wants to be called the servant of God. Dasana dasana dasa. Gopi bhatta patta kamalayo dasa dasana dasa. That's Mahaprabhu's identity. So he covered his ears and said, no, not God. Why are you saying God? He said, you should understand Bhagavatam. He was talking Bhagavatam, right? He said, you should understand Bhagavatam. Bhagavatam is the same as Krishna. He says that Krishna Tulya Bhagavata Vibhu Savashaya. He says the Bhagavatam is identical to Krishna. Krishna is a shelter of all living entities. He's the supreme shelter of everyone, the great shelter. Vibhu Savashaya. Everyone can take shelter of Krishna. Bhagavatam is the same. Tulya Bhagavata. He says, Prati Shloke Prati Akshare Nana Artha Kaya. That in every shloka, in every akshara, every syllable of every shloka of Bhagavatam, there is unlimited meanings. Nana Artha Kaya. So, Lord Chaitanya is teaching Sanatana Goswami that he's not God. Bhagavatam is God. Bhagavatam is Krishna. And unlimited meanings we can derive from Śrīmad Bhāgavatam. So in this section of the Bhagavatam, as we've heard during the week, in the last few weeks, particularly we heard from the Brahmacharyas this week. It seemed to be a very heavy Brahmacharya week. Adi Purush Prabhu and Param Brahma Prabhu, all the heavyweights, right? Sitting here giving it to us. So we feel a bit, inspired actually, because the Bhagavatam, it's not just, Prabhupada didn't establish the International Society for Brahmacharya Consciousness. He established International Society for Krishna Consciousness. So we might think here that this is all Brahmachari. We have to be Brahmachari. We do have to be Brahmachari. But we don't have to wear orange cloth. We don't have to hold danda, but we Brahmachari. And we'll talk about that Brahmachari. Definition of Brahmachari from Bhagavatam, from Srila Prabhupada today. Let's read the purport. Srila Prabhupada's purport. There are many social functions for keeping a prestigious position in society. In different countries and societies, there are various festivals and rituals. In India, the father is supposed to get his children married. When he does so, his responsibility to the family is complete. Arranging marriages is very difficult, especially in these days. At the present moment, no one could perform the proper ritual of sacrifice, nor can anyone afford to pay for the marriage ceremonies of the sons and daughters. Therefore, householders are very much distressed when they are confronted by these social duties. It is as though they were pierced by thorns and hurt by pebbles. Material attachment is so strong that despite the suffering, one cannot give it up. Prahlad Maharaj therefore recommends in the Bhagavatam 755, Hitvatma patam griyam andakupam vanam gato yadharim asrayeta. The so-called comfortable family position is compared to a dark well in a field. Andakupam. If one falls in a dark well covered by grass, his life is lost. Despite his cry for rescue, highly advanced spiritualists, therefore, recommend that one should not enter the Grihastha Ashram. It is better to prepare oneself in the Brahmacharya Ashram for austerities and remain a pure Brahmachari throughout one's life, so that one will not feel the piercing thorns of material life in the Grihastha Ashram. In the Grihastha ashram, one has to accept invitations from friends and relatives and perform ritualistic ceremonies. By so doing, one becomes captivated by such things, although he may not have sufficient resources to continue them. To maintain the Grihastha lifestyle, one has to work very hard to acquire money. Thus, one is implicated in material life and he suffers the thorn pricks. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Gnananjana Shalakaya Chakshun Militam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Karamayam Dadati Swaparantikam Namasrishna Manumapi Sachiputramatara Swarupam Rupam Tasya Grajamurupudim Maturingo Stabritim Radha Kundagirivadam Horadika Madhavasam Praptoyasya Pratita Kripaya Sri Gurum Tam Natosmi. I'll read the translation again. In household life, one is ordered to execute many yagyas and fruitive activities, especially the Vivaha Yagya, the marriage ceremony for sons and daughters, and the sacred thread ceremony. These are all the duties of a Grihastha, and they are very extensive and troublesome to execute. They are compared to a big hill over which one must cross when one is attached to material activities. A person desiring to cross over these ritualistic ceremonies certainly feels pains from the piercing thorns of pebbles endured by one attempting to climb a hill. Thus the conditioned soul suffers unlimitedly. Yesterday we were invited to a wedding ceremony. And that wedding ceremony was conducted on Facebook. We got the invite, somebody sent us an invite a few weeks ago for an event. You have to come to the event through digital marketing, right? So that we get the invitation to it. It was a past student of mine that I used to teach in New Zealand. So she sent out the invitation and we accepted, and yes, we're coming to the event, and we ticked off. And we were excited, 1 o'clock, it's going to be 3 o'clock there, 1 o'clock here. So we get ready for the event, for the wedding ceremony. And we didn't get dressed up or anything, but we went to the computer and put on the screen and logged into a Facebook account, and there was no wedding. And they said, probably there's some problem, 3 o'clock. So we'll check in again, 3:15, no wedding. Check in again, 3:30, no wedding came on. I think, what happened? We got connection, checking out Wi-Fi, everything's right, everything's perfect, but no wedding. So this wedding ceremony, it went on in New Zealand, but due to some technical difficulties, the people outside of New Zealand, we couldn't go to the wedding. We couldn't give blessings through the process, but we were thinking that, mentally we prepared to go to the wedding and to give our blessings and to send our, comments, how, for a good life, but we weren't able to because of some technical issues on the other end. So this is a modern day wedding. Modern day weddings, we might think that it's very easy to do modern day wedding. You don't have to worry so much. You don't need the big elaborate celebration and everything like that, because you can do it all virtually. We can do it. We can save a lot of money. We can invite hundreds and hundreds of people, and we don't have to feed them because they're on the other side of the world. It's much cheaper this way to do a virtual wedding, but still it didn't work. So no matter what it did, no matter what way we try, and that's another kind of what do you call it? When you dilute something, it's another way of diluting a real process. The Vivaha Yagya is important, and we want to invite people to the Vivaha Yagya for blessings, not for prestige. Not to say I spent $100,000 on my son's wedding. How much did you spend? You couldn't even spend $20,000 on your son's wedding. What to speak of your daughter's wedding? How much did you spend on your daughter's wedding? And like this, you hear some conversations like this, and you hear people. We had an office in Mumbai. We were doing an education program in Mumbai, and in the office, sometimes you hear the people in the office speaking, and nice people, but not all devotees, and they're speaking about the wedding ceremony they went to, or the wedding, how they married their daughter. Oh, I spent $35,000, like American dollars, on this wedding. What? You spent $35,000? I spent $80,000. in the office, they're talking like this and showing the photos, the pictures, everything like this. So very happy and inviting us. Especially if you're white skin in India and people know you're there, you get invited to a lot of weddings, like a bit of a kind of an attraction. The white guy came to my wedding, like another tick. So anyway, the wedding ceremony is important, but it's not for prestige. Every samskara is important. And the beauty of the Vaishnava culture is that all of the samskaras are connected with Krishna. And so the idea behind our samskara, and the wedding yesterday was definitely a Vaishnava samskara, is to attract the blessings of the Vaishnavas, attract the blessings of the devotees, so that they'll bless the couple to have a Krishna conscious life together in marriage. And so it becomes very auspicious. And Srila Prabhupada established the Vivaha Yagya from the first Yagya. First Yagya or second Yagya. Second Yagya in ISKCON was a Vivaha Yagya. First Yagya was initiation, second day was the Vivaha Yagya in 26 Second Avenue. And he continued that to initiate and to marry his disciples, because he wanted to regulate them. And he wanted to protect them, his disciples, from leading an unregulated life. And in this way become what Prabhupada termed the Brahmacharya Grihastha. And indeed Prabhupada elaborates on that in many purports in Bhagavatam and in lectures and conversations. That his grihastas, he was very proud of his grihastas, particularly the three famous grihastas who went to open the London Temple. Very, very proud of them because of the austerities that they endured in London, what they went through. And if you read Yamuna Mataji's book, and Mukunda Maharaj's book, and Guru Das's book, and Shyamasundar Prabhu's book, Malati's book's coming, I think. But if you read the books, the biographies, and everybody should be reading these books, because they connect us with the mood and the mission of Srila Prabhupada. How Prabhupada had such a unique contribution, how he made such a unique contribution to the modern world. And it will go down in history, what Prabhupada did. And it is going down in history. How Srila Prabhupada transformed the consciousness of society. And he was very passionate about making sure that the leaders of society got this message. That this International Society for Krishna Consciousness was a society. A society means that everybody is included. We have a society of Brahmanas, a society of Vaishyas, a society of Kshatriyas, society of all the Varnas and all the Ashramas. The Brahmacharis, Grihastha society, Vanaprastha society, and a Sannyas society. All of the Ashramas and Varnas combined together to make a society, International Society for Krishna Consciousness. So Prabhupada's vision was always very broad. Udharadi. In Bhagavatam it says the devotee, he has intelligence is very broad. Intelligence. And Prabhupada's vision was like that. One time, devotees asked Shrutikirti Prabhu, asked him, you've spent so much time with Prabhupada. How do we please Prabhupada? What is Prabhupada really? What can we do to please Prabhupada? Book distribution, deity worship, whatever. Opening up schools. What can we do to please Prabhupada? And Shrutikirti Prabhu's response was always, Prabhupada wanted to do things in a very grand fashion. He wanted to do things in a very big way, universal way, that had massive, ultimate impact on society, big impact on the individuals in society, the leaders in society. So do something big. He would always say that. Do something that is significant for Prabhupada, and that will attract Prabhupada's attention, because he liked that. He would send devotees to all corners of the world. And he, we heard last night in Prabhupada Memories, another very good way to cultivate Prabhupada consciousness and to enter into Prabhupada's mood and mission is to watch the Prabhupada Memories. If any of you are YouTubers, you just get into the Prabhupada Memories, you can stay there for years. There's so many memories. I don't know how many there are, but we haven't even scratched the surface of them. Siddhanta Prabhu and ITV, there's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of recollections, and some of them, you watch the memories, they were recorded 30 years ago. So the Prabhupada disciples, they look like young devotees. 30 years ago, they look young and fresh. You see Sureshwara Prabhu, he looks like a young, just out of the Brahmacharya Ashram. And he's talking about his recollections of Prabhupada. Anyway, this lady, Mataji, yesterday was talking about Prabhupada. And she was saying how it was, I think it was Mula Prakriti who wrote that book on Prabhupada. She was saying how she had some personal interaction with Prabhupada, one-on-one interaction with Prabhupada, and it was a rare occasion. And so she was talking about different events, different preaching that was going on around the world, and Prabhupada was listening. And then she said that, she said in the airports she was distributing Prabhupada's books. So Prabhupada asked her, what are you doing? She said, I'm distributing your books, Prabhupada. And then Prabhupada got really interested in the conversation, especially, and he asked her, where do you distribute the books? Who do you distribute the books to? What's the sort of response that people are giving for the books? He got really into doing a whole marketing survey, trying to work out where people are coming from and what their response is to his product, to his books. And she was telling him, Prabhupada, I distribute them to all sorts of people, to doctors and to lawyers and to simple people on the street and in airports, and to diplomats. And Prabhupada said, diplomats. He got interested, and he said, which diplomats, which countries have you distributed my books to? And she said, I distributed to this Indian ambassador and to this one from Maldives and Albania. And Prabhupada said, Albania? He said, Albania, that's behind the Iron Curtain, right? And he said, that's very good. And he said, how do they respond? And how do they get their books there? It's illegal to take books. And she said, well, the Albanian, the diplomats, they have diplomatic kind of concession that when they go through customs, they don't have to get checked. They don't look in their bags. At that time anyway. They don't look in their bags, so they go straight through. So he can take the book through. And then he gets the book in, and Prabhupada's book, Teachings of Lord Chaitanya, or whatever it is, gets into Albania. And Prabhupada said, yes. He said, we cannot get into Albania, but Chaitanya Mahaprabhu can get into Albania, and he's there now, and he will preach in Albania. So the point is, Srila Prabhupada established this international society for Krishna consciousness, and he he very much broke norms, many norms that you could consider to be standard for a spiritual organization, or even for Gaudiya Mat, for a Gaudiya tradition. But he established this Grihastha ashram right from the beginning. And here we're hearing that don't go to Grihastha ashram. Stay in the Brahmacharya ashram. Remain Naishtika Brahmacharya. Stay there and be trained up in austerity and be happy there, so you don't have to suffer the thorns and the pebbles, the thorn pricks, from climbing the Atibara Girim, from climbing that hill of... And that's a very interesting metaphor. It's a very appropriate metaphor, the Atibara Girim, because we always have this sense in the material world that if I just achieve this next level, I'll be happy and I'll be satisfied. And we get there and we look around and it doesn't satisfy our senses, our mind, our intelligence. And so we climb higher. And if I just get to the next promotion, to the next level, to the next vantage point, it'll be satisfying. I'll be happy. And we get there and we look around and we experience and we think, what else is there? What's next? And we go up and we up. And so the material world, climbing the Atibara Girim in the material world is... It will never satisfy the soul. It can't satisfy the soul. So Prabhupada has given us a formula where yes, we climb the hill, and yes, we get the vantage point, and we see it from the vantage point of bhakti. It's a paripashatu darshanam. Pashiti means to see, right? And paripashati means a particular perspective of vision. And that perspective of vision is given to the devotees in every ashram. Everyone who's taken the shelter of Krishna has this paripashyatu darshanam, has the capacity. And then prakritim hatha chodasam means that the prakriti, the three modes of nature, they release their energy, they release their influence on the devotee who's climbing the hill. We're doing the same activities as the non-devotees, but because we do it with a different consciousness, because we do it for a different motivation, we do it for a different purpose, the gatim is different, the destination is different, the prayojana is different, then we become free from the modes of nature, and the materialist becomes implicated in the modes of nature. By their climbing, they become more and more entangled in the complexities of the material world by climbing. The more vision that they get, the more elevation they get, the more perspective that they get from material vision, they become more and more entangled. And we become more and more liberated by doing the same activity but with a different consciousness. So the Brahmacharya ashram is the ashram for beginning. And it can be the ashram for finishing as well. But it's an ashram that we can say not just figuratively or metaphorically that it's important, but Brahmacharya is something that is the principle of the ashram. It's not the physical location of the building, it's not the vastu of the building, it's not the color of the cloth, it's a consciousness, Brahmacharya consciousness. And Prabhupada talks about this at length in this canto. We might think fifth canto is very hard-going canto, right? We get some may think it's discouraging. Oh, fifth canto, so many, Nayama deho deha bhajan loke, and so many instructions are given to us to give up our material aspirations and to go to the forest. Like here we have Prahlad Maharaj is telling us to go to the forest and take shelter of Hare Mashrayata, to go to Vrindavan, to that special forest. But in this fifth canto also we hear of Prithu Maharaj. And Prithu Maharaj is, he was, the introduction to Prithu Maharaj is where he's sitting on top of a hill, Gandhamadana hill. He's sitting high on top of a hill and he has a beautiful vision, of course. He can see everything from top of the hill. And who is he sitting with? Prithu Maharaj is sitting with Narada Muni. Naradan? Swayambhuva Manu. His father. His father and Narada Muni, the spiritual master of the universe. He's sitting on top of the universe with his Guru Maharaj and his father saying, now Prithu, I want you, he was not Maharaj, Prince Prithu, I want you to become the king. Not the king, I want you to become the emperor. Emperor of, not Bharatavarsha, emperor of the universe. I want you to become the emperor of the universe. And Prithu Maharaj says, Narada Muni just instructed me to become renounced. He's already instructed all of your brothers' sons and so many other people to become renunciates. I want to follow that path. So I'm not going to do it. And he refused the order of his father, Swayambhuva Manu, one of the great Manus, right? So he's refused. And Narada Muni's feeling very happy and satisfied that he got another one. Okay, he's got another signed up for the Brahmacharya Ashram. So Prithu's happy. So Swayambhuva is not happy. He's thinking, what will happen now? So then he... Priyavrata, sorry. What was I saying? Prithumash. Sorry. Priyavrata, thank you. That's the benefit of having brahmacharis here. Priyavrata. And so he thinks, what can I do? So he calls for Lord Brahma. Whenever there's a calamity, they call for Lord Brahma, particularly a big event. So he's not listening to his father. Swayambhuva has got direct connection with Brahma. So Lord Brahma comes on his swan. Beautiful description is given, that he comes on his swan vehicle, swan aeroplane. And he doesn't come alone. Lord Brahma comes with all of the heavyweights. He's coming to make sure that the point gets across. So all the munis and rishis, the sages, all of them are coming. He brings us up the rishis with him, Vashishta Muni, everybody's coming to see what's happening there at the Gandhamadana hill on the top. And then Lord Brahma comes and he's offered respect. Everybody's so happy to see him, right? They offer respect to him and offer the seat to him. And then he requests Priyavrata to please, listen to your father. You have to do this. You have to become the emperor of the universe. This is your service. And when you do this, you won't become implicated in materialistic work, materialistic activities. You'll do this with a pure consciousness that Narada has taught you. What Narada has taught you is good. That will stick with you. That won't go. What Narada Muni has given you the instruction to be detached. You be detached, but you engage in activities and you rule the universe. The universe. So he went to rule the universe for 11 arubdas. And one arubda means 100 million years. So he ruled the universe for 1100 million years. Quite a long time, huh? We think 4 years is a long time. 4 years in office, get re-elected, can run twice for office or 3 times. But 1100 million years, he ruled the universe. And then he renounced. And it said that, he married Bahishmati, a beautiful queen, and enjoyed unlimited heavenly opulences, but never lost his consciousness. He never lost the mission, the mood and the mission of his father and his Lord Brahma and his guru, Narada Muni. Prabhupada mentioned there that the 4 of the 12 Mahajanas were on the hill there with Priyavrata. Lord Shiva was there. Lord Shiva, Swayambhuva Manu, Narada Muni, Lord Brahma were there on the hill. So this is an important event. And Prabhupada uses it to make this important point, that even though he entered into this Grihastha ashram and he took this great responsibility to become the emperor of the universe, he was considered a brahmachari. in those purports, Prabhupada quotes there that he was a Brahmacharya Grihastha. Priyavrata Maharaj was a Brahmacharya Grihastha, even though he was enjoying with unlimitedly. And I think it's there that Prabhupada, in the same purport, Prabhupada mentions about the Rajasuya sacrifice, and says that when Sahadev announced that Lord Krishna should get the first remnants from the sacrifice, Rajasuya sacrifice, he's the most exalted person here in this whole assembly, and that was not contested. Everybody, the Brahmanas and all the kings said, yes, Krishna is the best. He's the most important, except for you know who. He was sitting there, Shishupala was sitting in the assembly, and he's thinking, Krishna's not the best. Krishna, he's a rascal. And he was going down, he had his big list why Krishna shouldn't get this special recognition. He doesn't have a caste, he's immoral, he acts immoral, he does all sorts of bad things. So he gave the long list why he shouldn't. And then at that time, Prabhupada mentions this twice or three times at different places, that Bhishmadev spoke up in favor of Sahadev's opinion. And Bhishmadev said, actually, Krishna is the best Brahmachari. He's the greatest Brahmachari. Because Shishupala was saying Krishna's, he's immoral and he dances with young girls and he's got so many wives in Dwarka. And then Bhishmadev said, no, Krishna's the greatest Brahmachari. He's the best Brahmachari because he's completely detached from that. Even in the midst of that, he doesn't become attached and he's not bewildered. So he's the greatest. And it says that Bhishmadev, he's the greatest authority in that assembly on Brahmacharya, because he took the vow of Brahmacharya. So what he says is correct. So the Brahmacharya Grihastha is an important point that Prabhupada established right from the beginning. But it's based on the Brahmachari Guru Kureva Sandanta Gurohitam. It's based on that. Prabhupada doesn't give a purport to that verse in the 7th canto, and we were all like, why didn't Prabhupada give a purport on that verse when we were researching Gurukula? But he gave a class on that in 76, I think. He gave a Bhagavatam class, a series of Bhagavatam classes in Bombay, in 1976. And there he spoke on a few verses from that chapter. That's the beginning of the chapter of the orders of society, the 4 orders of social orders and 4 ashrams. And there Prabhupada says, explains the principle of Brahmachari, that you live in the ashram of the Guru, Brahmachari Gurukule. He goes to the Gurukula and stays in there for the purpose of Vasandanta Gurohitam. To please Guru, Gurohitam, for the satisfaction of the spiritual master, and for the Vasandanta, the most important thing, it's a starting point, is to control the senses. And that is Brahmacharya. And Prabhupada said this education is missing. This education is lacking in the Western world. In India, what to speak of the Western world. Everywhere, this education is lacking. The first thing that is in education is to develop sense control, character development. And then Prabhupada says ABCD. First is sense control and then ABCD. That can come easily. So character development is how we develop our character is by learning to control the senses, the mind, the tongue, the eyes, the ears. We learn to control that in the Brahmacharya Ashram or the Brahmacharini Ashram. And Prabhupada created this system. So we live in the ashram. As ISKCON devotees, the ashram is our temple. This is Ashraya is here in the temple. We might not have a physical address in Albert Park because Grihasthas can't afford that. But Brahmacharis can afford to live in Albert Park. But the grihastas can't afford to live here, most of them. But our shelter is Albert Park. Our shelter is ISKCON, is Srila Prabhupada. And that doesn't mean it's a physical location in one place. But Prabhupada has given us this shelter and we live in it as brahmacharis, all of us. Children, adults, men, women, we live in his ashram. We live in Prabhupada's ashram. And we follow the rules of the ashram. The rules of the ashram is that we offer our food to Krishna. The rules of the ashram is that we rise early in the morning. The rules of the ashram is that we clean the body every day. We take bath and put tilak. And the rules of the ashram is we only eat vegetarian food offered to Krishna. These are the rules of the ashram. And for the Brahmacharya, for the grihastas, the rules of the ashram is we have regulated sex life. It says it's not that we don't have sex life, we have it. And he says you can produce, the principle is to produce Krishna conscious offspring. And that is Brahmacharya. He said that quite a few times. That if you produce Krishna conscious offspring, that is Brahmacharya ashram, grihasta. So that's our shelter. ISKCON is our shelter. Vasandanto gurohitam acharan dasavam nicho. In the ashram we develop submissiveness, nichaha, and dasavan, we become servants. We learn how to become a servant of Krishna in ISKCON. First thing, many of us in the early days, maybe not now, but first thing we did in the early days when we joined ISKCON here in the temple was pot shed. It wasn't this pot shed. This is a fancy pot shed. You can't even call this a pot shed. This is like some 5-star hotel thing. But pot shed was a pot shed. It was a shed at the back of the property. And, that was just where we went and bashed the pots. Pots all throughout hours of the night. And that's where we learned to become servants. Actually, in Crossways, we were students and we would go to Crossways mostly for halva. And not much else, just halva. We get a little bit of rice and a bit of sabji and mostly halva. More of that halva with the yellow sauce on the top. And the custard too. So we go there and we would get free meals. Crossways was free. In the early days it was free. And then it became $2. And we think, $2 is a lot of money. So you know what this is? This is a darshan of Radha Ballabha by Krishna Prabhu. But I should have told him that today I'm here, I can have real darshan. Sorry. It goes on for a while. Yeah, beautiful darshan. So Dasavan, in the pot shed, we learn. And in Crossways we learned, and I remember $2, $2, a student, we can't pay $2 for a meal. So they said, if you wash the dishes, you can have free. So we went out to the back, myself and Nigel, my friend. We used to wash the dishes in the back of Elizabeth Street, the Crossways. And on the wall they had a mantra. It was Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda. And that's where I learned my first mantra. Washing the dishes there, reading Sri Krishna Chaitanya. What is Sri Krishna Chaitanya? For weeks, my consciousness was completely covered. Sri Krishna Chaitanya, I couldn't work it out. It took me months to learn that verse. Actually, I washed the dishes there for like about maybe, 6 months, and I still didn't know the mantra. Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda. It took me so long. What is it? And then there was a big picture of the Panchatattva. The one we have upstairs? That was in Crossways. And we used to eat our dinner in front of that picture, right at the feet of the Panchatattva. And then one of the devotees said to me, this mantra is that picture. Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda. Wow. And then I learned it, when I was looking at them, thinking, that's Sri Krishna Chaitanya. So this is the kind of the training. This is becoming servant, dasavat, servant-like, acharan dasavat nicho. And then the last line is interesting in this Brahmacharya Gurukuru verse. It's that the devotees, we should become like sudrida sorida. We should have, for the Guru sudrida sorida, we should become very fixed in friendship, a firm friendship with the Guru. Now that friendship is not like, g'day mate, like, how's it going? How's it going, Guru Maharaj? Not like that. Different type of friendship. But the friendship means still, there's different levels of friendship, right? So, and in Sanskrit there are many different words for the word friendship. So, but we have to develop that friendship with the spiritual master. It means for a friend I'll do anything. I'll jump under a bus for my best friend. So we'll do anything for the spiritual master. And that's the training that we've all inherited from Srila Prabhupada in ISKCON, in the ISKCON Gurukul. You can think of ISKCON as a Gurukul. It's a school where we learn how to become sense-controlled. It's a school where we learn how to become a servant. It's a school where we learn how to become submissive. And we do that in the satsanga, in the association of devotees. I wanted to share with you, I've been listening to Prabhupada singing and speaking on this bhajan, Bhaja Hare Mana. And Prabhupada gives some many of you would have heard this translation. It's famous on a CD or DVD, whatever it is. It's a famous recording of Prabhupada. And he speaks very, very clearly and very powerfully his translation of this Bhajahu Remana, Srinanda Nandana. And he says that we're interested in worshipping Nanda Nandana, Krishna. He said there might be many Krishnas, but we want to know, we're serving Nanda Nandana, Devaki Nandana. We're serving this Krishna, not any other Krishna. So many people have the name Krishna, right? When we were staying in Mumbai, the missionary who's come to do the fix everything in the house. He's the plumber, the electrician, everything. He comes in a pair of shorts and a singlet and takes his shoes off at the door, and he's got one bag, 3 tools in his bag, and he can fix anything, right? He's a plasterer, painter, plumber. I said, "Where's your certificate, man?" He hasn't got a certificate. He just, and his name was Hare Krishna. That was his name, Hare Krishna. So there might be many Krishnas or Hare Krishnas, but we're interested in worshipping Bhajahure Mana, Srinanda Nandana. Prabhupada is saying that the mind is so difficult to control. Unless we worship Krishna, the mind will be lost, will be a mature consciousness. Bhajahure Mana. And he says that this will create fearlessness. The poet, Govinda, is saying, when you take Charanara Vinda, Abhaya Charanara Vindare, you will become completely fearless by this worship of Krishna, when we worship the Supreme Lord, Srinanda Nandana. And he says that it's very difficult, Dulabha Manava, Janama, to achieve this unless we have a satsang. He says, Prabhupada said in his commentary that without the association of devotees, forget it, he says. Forget it. You can't become Krishna conscious without the association of devotees. Satsanga. Tarahoe Bhava Sindhure. That this is an ocean. To get out of this ocean of material suffering, we have to have the satsang, the association of devotees. And this is the verse I wanted to share with you because it's connected with today's verse. It's the Sita Atapa Bara Badishana. That we'll do anything. We'll go through heat and the cold of winter in Melbourne. Bara Badishana, the sleet, the rain, the wind, right? In this material world, we'll do anything for a drop of satisfaction in the material world. We try our hardest to achieve this. Day and night, Govinda Das says. In Edina Jamini Jagire, it will heat, cold, rain, sleet, whatever it is, day and night, we'll do our best to enjoy the senses. We'll do our best to achieve the goal of our sense gratification. And we've been serving here in the material world. This is a beautiful line translation by Prabhupada in his commentary. And he says, Bipale means, he says, without result. Bipale, without fruit. Nothing came from this. Why didn't it come? Bipale sevenu, because kripana durjana. He says this durjana, his translation of durjana is outsider. What a beautiful way of saying this. Durjana, he's an outsider. Because we've been serving these materialistic people, we got no result. Bipale, useless. No matter what we did, we didn't get what we wanted in the material world. Because we served the wrong boss. We're serving the senses, serving the mind. Durjana means one who's outside. He's an outsider means he's not good for us. Apashyatam atmatattvam, griyeshu grihamedinam. Outsider. They don't have any vision. In second canto of Bhagavatam, no vision of reality because of the focus on grihamedi, griyeshu grihamedinam. Their disintelligence is for sense gratification in the house. The grihastha ashram means a fortress for sense control. It's where we take shelter. It's where we become strong. But the grihamedi just loses it there. Apashyatam, he can't see anything there. Durjana, outsider. We want to be with the insiders. The insiders are the satsanga, the devotees. Chapala sukha laba lagire. That this is just like a drop. Chapala sukha. The happiness that we receive here is like a drop of water in the desert. And Prabhupada quotes this. Tomorrow he quotes Vidyapati's verse that the happiness of family life is compared to a drop of water in the desert. And he mentions that in this commentary on this verse. It's just like a drop. He says, in the desert you need water, but what will a drop do? Useless. And so then Prabhupada says that, you have your youth and you're expanding and you have your strength and vitality and you can do so many things. Make skyscraper buildings and build fast motor cars. But what is the use? Useless, he says. Edana yobana putra parijana. And then he talks about that kamala dara jala jivana talamala, that the water is like it's coming off the lotus leaf. It won't stick. It doesn't stick, this happiness, because it's Chapala Sukha. So then Prabhupada says, all right, Govinda Das says he's negating all these things that we're interested in, that we're attracted to as conditioned souls. Well, what is the alternative for the mind? Give some alternative. And then he says, Shravanam Kirtanam. That's the alternative. All right, we've been uselessly serving the senses, serving Durjana, wicked outsiders, getting no result, but continue to endeavor against hope to get some satisfaction and pleasure and promotion here in our pursuits for material happiness. And it didn't happen. And it won't happen. So what is the alternative? The alternative is Shravana Kirtana Smaranam Vandanam. Tasya Sakyam Atmanivedanam. This is the alternative. To do bhakti, to engage in bhakti. That's the alternative. In conclusion, this was going to be my conclusion. I don't want to have two false conclusions. So in conclusion, and this will be, you can keep me to this. in conclusion, when I said this, I heard Maharaj say, Devan Maharaj said this last Sunday at the program we went to, in conclusion. Then you know, okay, you get ready for the conclusion. Sometimes we stop the class, the class concludes about 10 times, right? My last point, one other point. All right. So in conclusion, this was going to be my conclusion, but my conclusion is connected with this. That Prahlad Maharaj, because Prabhupada quotes this Andakupam verse, it's a very important verse in Bhagavatam, and I wanted to conclude with it. That Hiranyakashipu, he's Asurarat. Krishna is Svarat. In Bhagavatam, Krishna is known as Svarat. He's the emperor of himself. No one, he's the supreme Svarat. In the first canto, first chapter of Bhagavatam. In this verse, before this verse where we quoted today from the Hitvatma Patam Griham Andakupam verse, Hiranyakashipu is introduced. It says, Ekada Asura Rat. Putram, he said, for his son, he Ankamaropyam, he puts his son on his lap. Right? And then he asks him, he says to Prahlad, my dear son Prahlad, Manyate Sadure Bhavan. What is the most important thing you've learned from your teachers, Sandanamaka? This is the first time he asked the question, not the second. Second time, he got tossed off, right? He got thrown to the ground and chop him up, pierce him. But this first time, his son very innocently told him, my dear father, those who have taken this vow, who are in this householder ashram, in the Andakupam ashram, they've lost their sense. Better they go to the forest. They're lost in this forest of material enjoyment in the house of Grihastha ashram. Get out of there. They're considering friends and enemies, dualities in the material world. Remove yourself from there and go to Vrindavan. Go to this Vanamgato Yadharim Asriyata. Go to the forest. Instead of the forest of material enjoyment, go to the forest of Krishna, Vrindavan. Get out of the forest of material enjoyment and go to this forest where Krishna is the ultimate shelter. Then Hiranyakashipu, the Asurarat, says, where did you learn this from? This is not what we teach in our school. This is upset Hiranyakashipu. He says, you shouldn't speak like this. So he said, go back to the school and called Sandanamaka. They're the teachers, right? Told the teachers, you teach him properly. Make sure he doesn't get influenced by any bad association. He's getting something from somewhere he's getting. So make sure he doesn't get bad association. So they took him back. And in the school, see, they didn't get chastised then, and Prahlad didn't get thrown off the lap. His father said, all right, his son's got, a little bit of a problem. He needs some counseling. So send him back to school. So the Sandanamaka, his teachers, said to him in school, what happened, Prahlad? We taught you all this other really cool stuff, and you didn't say anything to your father about that, about diplomacy and about cheating and everything. You didn't say anything. You told him about this going to forest. What is this Andakupam stuff? We didn't teach you this, Andakupam. And then Prahlad told them, look, this is just natural. It comes from the heart. It's spiritual. It's everybody has access to this knowledge. And then they got mad. They said, you're not listening to us. You're in our school. We're the Gurukula. We're the ashram teachers. We're gurus here. So they got the stick. And they said, all right, you won't listen to us. The fourth order of discipline means stick. You get the stick. So they gave the stick to Prahlad. And then they kept teaching Prahlad. They taught him nice things, how he should become a good asura, a good demon. So then, after some time, they thought, now he's fixed up, right? He knows everything about diplomacy and everything. So economics and rituals and everything. He's fixed up. So we'll take him to his father. So the mother, Prahlad's mother, dressed him nicely, bathed him, dressed him, put nice ornaments on him. He looked very beautiful. he's effulgent, right, already, but dressed him up and took him in before the father. The teacher's very proud. Okay, we brought him back, very proud, and they presented Prahlad to the father. Father's so happy to see his son. Again, Ankamaropyam Putram, put his son there and again asked him, Prahlad, so tell me, my dear son, he was kissing him, fondling him, smelling his head. Tell me, what did you learn in school? Like when you come home from school, your parents say, what did you learn today? And you say, nothing. What did you learn today? Nothing. Hopefully you don't say that. You say, I learned my times tables. So you learn good things in school. So Prahlad said, that's when he let loose Shravanam Kirtanam. He told his father, he told the teachers, Matina Krishna Paratosvatova, don't worry about it, you won't become Krishna conscious. Then he's Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnu Smaranam Parasevanam. He gave it to his father, and that's his father. He couldn't stand that. And then Prahlad was finished. But the point is, to sort of bring it all together, is that Prahlad was teaching Brahmacharya. And many chapters in the Bhagavatam are teaching Brahmacharya. Many, many verses there that are telling us that we should avoid Nateviru Svatakatimhi Vishnu. They don't have any. They're Bahayata Manina, because the materialist has external consciousness. They're always thinking outside of themselves. They won't focus on spiritual life. So Prahlad is giving very wonderful instruction on Brahmacharya. And that Brahmacharya is for all of us, those instructions, to control the senses, to control the mind, to engage in devotional service, to become a servant, to become submissive. And in that way, we share a common culture in Krishna consciousness, in the International Society of Krishna Consciousness, in Srila Prabhupada's ashram. And that is that we can relate easily within the ashrams because we have the same expectations, the same regulations, the same principles are regulating our lives, the same principles are regulating our interactions, the same principles are regulating our behavior. And we just have the demarcation of ashram, as Prabhupada said in the purport in Bhagavatam, that it's a mere formality, a distinction of renunciation. But we're all in the same ashram, you can say. And then we have demarcations according to our levels of renunciation. Are there any questions or comments? Yes. Thank you for coming to the class every day. What an amazing question. Thank you for the benefit of those who are watching. Sivya's asking, I mentioned that Shruti Kirti Prabhu had been asked many times, what does Srila Prabhupada like the most? What will please Srila Prabhupada the most in our service? Book distribution or deity worship, etc. And his conclusion was always that Prabhupada did things in a very grand style, so he liked things to do something in a very big way. And Sivya, how old are you? 9. She's 9 years old and goes to our local Middle Park Primary School with 40 other devotee children. It's Middle Park Gurukul, and not quite yet, but will be one day. And so she's asking what she can do. She can't do big things like deity worship, and she can't spend her day on Swanson Street distributing Prabhupada's books and opening temples in all parts of the world. So what can she do? I'm glad you brought this up, Sivya, because I was thinking as soon as I said that, I wasn't planning to say that in the class, I just heard it recently, so I shared it with you. I was thinking, but we can't all do big things, like open up temples and become a guru and run big festivals and do, really big things. But for Prabhupada, just like for Lord Ramchandra and the spider or helping to build the bridge to Lanka, Ram's accepting everybody's service. Hanuman can lift the mountains and throw them into the ocean, and the spider can flick a little pebble, a little bit of dust to make a bit more to give a little bit more traction to get over to the other side, to Lanka. And Ram considers the service, accepts the service equally. Not that Hanuman is a bigger servant than the spider. So most of us here are spiders. We have small capacity to serve because of our different natures and because of different situations. But what we do is considered very big in the terms of Krishna and the Parampara and Srila Prabhupada. When we make an offering to Krishna, Krishna is called the Bhavagrahi Janardana. He takes just whatever we give and he just takes the best part of that. We might be so many imperfections in what we offer, but Krishna and Srila Prabhupada is taking the very, very essence of what we're offering, and it may not be really big, but it's big for us. It may not be big for someone else. It's kind of, in a relative sense, our capacity. If we offer our full capacity to Krishna, that's big, and that is accepted by Krishna and acknowledged and important for Srila Prabhupada and for the devotees. So whatever we can offer. As a student, as a young student in a school, what we can offer to Srila Prabhupada is what you're doing already, is attending the temple as much as you can. And for you and your family, that's incredible. We always share our appreciation of what you do with our friends in New Zealand and different parts of the world, because it's important. Prabhupada wanted that the children attend as much as they can, and you're attending as much as you can, and then when time comes, when it's a Monday, you wouldn't be here at 9 o'clock on a Monday. You'll be in school, or you'll be out the back eating prasadam and getting to school. So as much as you can, spend time in the temple, bring your friends to the temple, and at school, one thing you could do at school without kind of too much interference is you make some friends that are not devotees. So there's plenty of children in the school, and there'll be plenty of innocent children there that would love to hear about Krishna, that would love to come to the temple. You say, would you like to come to my temple? And you can bring them here. You can sneak off at break time. No, you can't do that. But you can after school, when you get permission from the parents, you can say, I want to take my friend to my temple, and start bringing your friends to the temple. And then before you know it, your school will be a gurukul. All the children will come here for lunch and for after dinner, and they'll be begging their parents, Mommy, can I go to that temple in Albert Park, around the corner in Dank Street? I don't want to go to the church anymore. They won't say that. But see if you can bring some friends. It'll be a very nice service. And you can just do it in a very innocent way, not preaching to them. We don't want to make them Krishna conscious devotees. We just want to share what we've got. We've got something special here. When you've got a friend, you say, you want to share something with them, secret. I've got a secret. I'll tell you the secret when I get to the temple. So you come to the temple and show the secret. Here's our secret. Radha Ballabha. And they explain to them and then that friend enjoys, so bring another friend. That would be a nice service. Gopa Brindesh is thinking, how can we sell books to these kids? We can sell them the children's Bhagavatam. He's just made an order for another set of Bhagavatams. He's trying to put it into the Bhadra campaign. Children's Bhagavatam. Can you do that, Sivya? Is that okay, Matani? I think it's acceptable. You know, we had a friend in New Zealand, and she's been initiated a long time, devoted a long time, Chinese. And she's Chinese from Singapore. She knows many Chinese dialects and everything. And her English is, you know, just okay, but not great. But so she was doing some service in New Zealand as a housemaid, looking after children for local people, not just devotees. So she would be like a nanny, and she would be called in to look after the children. And at night time, the parents go out and they spend long, you know, they come back at 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock at night. So she put the children to sleep 7 o'clock or something when they had to go to sleep, did everything right. And then she would sit in front of the fire. It's cold in New Zealand. She would sit in front of the fireplace, chanting like at 8 o'clock at night, Hare Krishna, finishing her rounds, her japa. And the kids come out. Sometimes one child will come out, one girl will come out and look at the babysitter, and she's chanting Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Krishna. Thinking, what is she doing? Looking at her, and then she gets her brother. Look at what she's doing, you know. And then auntie's doing something. She's talking to herself, and they're looking at her. And then the next time she comes, they both come out again. And so after some time, they come out to her and say, you know, Auntie, what are you doing? Why are you talking to yourself like this at night time? So she said, oh, I'm doing japa. So these young kids, they were very interested, and they said, can we do japa? Can we do like this? These are non-devotee kids. So she said, okay, but don't tell your parents. No, she didn't say that. So she taught them Hare Krishna, and the kids chant Hare Krishna. And then she took them to the temple, these kids, local kids, took them to the temple. So she's got them in the afternoon, so bring them to the temple, and then go home and chant some rounds with them, put them to sleep, chant some rounds. And the parents found out, and the parents said, what are you doing? And she said, they came home and she was chanting japa. And they said, what are you doing? You know, the kids are asleep. And so I'm just chanting. And the parents asked, what is this? And she said, oh, it's japa, it's my prayer time. I do prayers late at night. So they were interested, and then she brought the parents to the temple. And the parents and the children, everyone came to the temple. So they're a completely non-devotee family, and, you know, quite, you know, but they're interested because she just had a very innocent approach. That's what I do. I chant Hare Krishna, and would you like to do it with me? Would you like to come to my temple? I've got a special temple. And yes, I would. And when they go to the temple, it's like, wow. In Auckland, they have a special, this is a very special temple. This is Prabhupada did that. But in Auckland, they built a temple. This used to be a school, and we made a nice temple. There, they built a big temple. 500 people can sit. Melbourne wants that temple. 500 people can sit in that temple. And it's all glass windows. And when you look out the glass windows, you can see only fields, cows and horses and things. It's very beautiful. So when you bring people to the temple, they're, wow. Or paintings on the ceilings. Okay, I think we better finish here. Grantaraj Śrīmad Bhāgavatam ki, Śrīla Prabhupada ki, Gopimanandi. Haribo. You want this?